Hello, welcome back to Expressive Arts. I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll get the PowerPoint pulled up here. So you should be able to see that now. I'm going to go ahead and put it into presentation mode. Okay, so we're talking about drama in the classroom and how that can be used with children and how children do participate in dramatic play. We're also going to talk about presenting. That really is something that you have to consider for the age group that you're working with, as well as the specific children that you're working with. For younger children, having them present a dramatic play or even a Christmas pageant or a sing-along type thing where there's an audience, for the younger children that's really not appropriate, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through, but think about their developmental level as far as socially, emotionally, even cognitively, the pressure that puts on them to perform, and how we could do something that would be more appropriate with the younger age groups, rather than having them present for an audience. Okay. All right, so we're talking about creative drama in this chapter. Drama or theater. It's an interesting distinction that your book brings up there, so really think that through. If you haven't read yet, stop the lecture here and go back and read your chapter and then come back to the lecture. But if you have read, make sure that you paid attention to that observation that always comes at the beginning of each chapter. Your textbook has a lot of really great components to it, and so take advantage of those. Okay, so pay attention to those observations and really think about similar circumstances that you've either had in the classroom or you've observed. Okay. DAP, we're going to be talking a lot about developmentally appropriate practices. Excuse me. In this lecture, where we always talk about DAP with early childhood, but we pay particular mind to it during this section. The process of drama, learning through dramatic play, the experience of the participants, it should not be about the end product. It shouldn't be getting them ready to have a production of some type for an audience. Okay, it should be about them learning through dramatic play, learning through their own experiences, getting that social aspect, conversation, all of those types of things. 5 senses or perspectives of dramatic play: imagination, physical body, speech, emotions, intellect. All of those things come into play when children are participating in dramatic play, whether that's playing in the house area or the kitchen area, or whether that's outdoor play and they're playing some kind of dramatic game. It's just important to realize that dramatic play encompasses so much more than just pretending or just play. I don't really like that term when I hear people say just playing. It bothers me, but that's part of what our job is as early educators, to kind of inform people that children are never just playing. That's always about their development. All right, the value of play. Well, take note of this website. I'm not going to play it. You have it here in the PowerPoint. Just bring the PowerPoint up. You can click on it and watch it. But there's a video for each of these. Okay, the bakery, the train station, the garden center, We Can Clean Too, and I think there might be one more, but they're great videos to kind of watch to see how different areas of play can be set up in the classroom. Okay, so consider the following: multisensory development, social emotional development, and how drama matches how young children learn. And they really do learn, and it doesn't matter what age group you set these up for, they're going to learn something. It's just about what we put into those particular centers that will provide them the opportunities and the materials that they need to work on whatever they are, whatever skills they're trying to develop. All right, reflection. Remember a time when you observed children participating in creative dramatics. Consider how this type of play helps with child development in the different domains: cognitively, socially, emotionally, physically, linguistically. Really think about, you've observed this. If you've worked in a classroom, in an early childhood classroom, you've observed this multiple times. But even if you've never worked in a classroom before, you've still observed this when you've gone to a classroom to do some observations. So think back about when you did watch children, you were just observing, and you saw them participating in creative dramatics. And think about the different domains of development. Drama terms, characters are these. Your book goes through each of these in depth, but I just wanted to mention them just to draw them to your attention. Your students will take on the persona of different characters in their dramatic play. Maybe they want to play the role of the mom or the dad or the baby or the family pet. But characters are important, and we can learn a lot about the children by what characters they choose to portray in their play. Children's theater, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. Cooperative work, which is huge in early childhood, getting them to share and work together and, be socially responsible, those types of things. Drama and education, the focus, the plot, the sociodramatic play, the use of the body. Think about how the body is used in different ways while a child is engaging in pretend play. And verbal expressions. Okay, so these are some of the things that we're going to touch on throughout this lecture, but your book goes over each of these separately, so make sure that you've read through those. Okay. Some of the benefits of creative drama: literacy development. Absolutely. Having conversations with other children, having dialogue definitely helps build their literacy. Many times, some type of creative play will involve writing or taking notes. If they're playing restaurant, for example, the waitress or waiter will write down someone's order, and then they'll take it to the chef and they'll read the order. And a lot of times it's just chicken scratches, but they're going through those motions and starting to get the understanding that the written word has meaning in it. It does matter. Okay. Extemporaneous speaking, absolutely. They make things up on the go when they're participating in dramatic play. Social and emotional development, absolutely. Think about the problem-solving skills involved, the way that they have to work cooperatively, the way that they have to get along with each other, right? Developing imagination, absolutely. Empowering children with opportunities for independent thinking, problem-solving, collaboration, empathy for others, expanding oral language, making decisions and choices. All of these things are just a few of the benefits of creative drama. There are so many more that you can think of. All right, some things that your book covers pretty well. Pantomime, which is kind of acting out or using their hands to act things out or to show us. This is particularly good for children who are as yet nonverbal, so our younger toddlers, but also older children that are nonverbal for different reasons. Pantomime can, and that's misspelled. That's supposed to be an M at the end there instead of an N, but it can be an important strategy. Sociodramatic play, yes, lots of social interaction takes place in dramatic play. Prop boxes, if you've never seen or heard of a prop box, this is something you should probably explore a little bit. You can make prop boxes out of lots of different things, and we'll go into more detail on that in a future slide too. Story enactment, absolutely. Taking a story that has been read and acting it out, whether that's using props from a prop box or using things that the children find in the work area. Puppetry is huge with dramatic opportunities. Storytelling, whether that's retelling a story they've heard or whether that's making up a story. Reader's theater for older children, and group process. All of these things are aspects of drama in early childhood. Types of drama for young children. Dramatic play, you see the kids there having a little tea party. We see this a lot in the house area. Children cooking, children making meals, sitting down together to eat pretend food, right? Sociodramatic play, consider the flea market or the garage sale center on page 253 in your textbook. If that's one of the pieces that you skipped over while you were reading, go back to that and really look at it. Think about how you could use that in your classroom or how you could alter it to make it fit what you are already doing in the classroom. Prop boxes. Prop boxes are boxes or containers. I like to use clear plastic storage totes and keep all of the items for a certain center that I want to set up. This wouldn't be one of my centers that I always have, but this would be something extra that I pull out every once in a while. Like maybe a pizza restaurant. I would have menus from a local pizza place that, they've discontinued those menus or something, so they would donate those. Empty pizza boxes, some like a pizza tray that the pizza would come to the table on, maybe some aprons from a pizza place. So that would be something that you could put all of that in a prop box. You could do car wash and keep all of your child-safe car wash type things, sponges, spray bottles, things like that. And you're not going to have the children go out and do a car wash, but you could have them set up a station to wash the trikes as children drove the trikes through that station outside, or something similar to that. Prop boxes can also be based on books or stories. The Little Red Riding Hood. You could have a red cape. You could have a wolf puppet. You could have a basket with some pretend goodies to have, to take to grandma's house or whatever. The Three Little Pigs. You could have things to build those houses. You could have little pig puppets or headbands with the pig ears and wolf ears. But there are different ways that you can use prop boxes. I always like to just take them out every now and then, put them on a table or on the top of a shelf or something, and just allow children free access to the items in there to do what they wanted. I usually introduced a new prop box in circle time or even small group time, if I thought that was necessary. Okay. Pantomime, consider the suggestions on page 255. They're pretty great suggestions. You've probably used some of those already. If not, I would recommend that you just, look through those and see which ones you could use in your classroom. Participation stories are really great, stories that have a lot of interaction with the children, that they can participate in during the reading, but then also afterwards too, where they can do some acting out of that particular story. Creative dramatics and playmaking. Children are very, very creative, but we can help develop that just through what we put out in the environment and what we make available to them. We should be constantly observing them and seeing what they're interested in. And when we see, oh, they really like that puppet, maybe we should get more puppets up, or things like that. Story dramatization, of course, acting out the stories. Child created plays, and these happen on a daily basis in the dramatic play area. They're putting on their own show, really, but it's for their own benefit, for they're acting through, they're taking on a role, and maybe sharing roles with other children or assigning roles to other children sometimes if there's a leader in the group. But they create their own types of play. In the dramatic area, watch children when they're outside playing, and they'll get some kind of elaborate chase game where there's rules, and whether it's whether they're playing police and robbers or whatever. Kind of pay attention. It's child created dramatics that they're participating in, but they're incorporating some of that large motor movement with running and things. Puppetry. Puppets are great. There's some fantastic puppets that you can purchase, but they do get pricey sometimes, so you don't need to necessarily purchase a ton of those. Hopefully your program has some funds for a few purchased puppets, but there's all kinds of ways that you can make puppets, and we'll look at that in just a little bit. Look at the little finger puppets there. They're just made out of pieces of felt, and they're just simply hand stitched around, so that would be pretty easy to do those types of finger puppets. Some of you may have already done some like that. If not, I would encourage you to try your hand at creating your own felt finger puppets. We create felt board stories all of the time, so as early childhood educators, we're used to working with felt. We're used to cutting those pieces, making them nice and neat. Try your hand at some of these finger puppets. Why not? Give it a shot. Storytelling. Children participate in storytelling, but they also love to listen to stories being told. So don't neglect to include that in your planning. And storytelling is more than just that read aloud time that we have every day. It's telling stories throughout the day, encouraging children to tell their own stories. Children as the tellers. We kind of just talked about that, but having them tell different stories, and we can give them story starters. As when we're working with younger children, we can do that verbally. With children that are a little bit older that are reading and writing, we can give them prompts, and they can write stories that way. Presentation or performance. This really, we have to think about whether it's developmentally appropriate for the group that we're working with. We typically, with early childhood, in the younger ages, we don't want to require that they participate in that, just because of the anxiety. It's just not appropriate at the younger ages. But for the older children, it definitely is, and it's a good skill to develop for them. Readers theater also, for older children mostly. But just think of the age group that you're working with. Steps in story dramatization. Presentation of the story, whether it's read or told. Organization of characters, scenes, space, and material. So think all of that through. Improvisation of story. And we do this sometimes when we're working with younger children and they're kind of getting antsy. We're reading a children's book to them that's a little bit longer, and we see that they're kind of getting done sitting still and listening. So we kind of paraphrase the book as we go through, just to get through it. We can do that, during free choice time as well, or children can do that, and they improvise the story. They kind of make it up as they remember it. Sometimes they change it up. The evaluation, talking about the happenings, and we should be doing a lot of that, and including children in the evaluation as well. Replay, do it again. If they enjoyed it and they want to, you do it again. Keep whatever materials you used available for them to use during free choice time. Have fun. Having fun is the most important part. Children learn better when they're enjoying what they're doing. We know that there are all kinds of developmental reasons why dramatic play is important, but we need to have fun with it and encourage children to have fun with it. Puppet possibilities. So you can use a lot of different things to make puppets. A sock is a great one. I've done turtle puppets with a sock and paper plates. I staple the sides of 2 paper plates together, so that would form the turtle shell, and then the child would put the sock on their hand and stick it through, and that would be it will come out the turtle's head. That's always a fun one, but you can make any kind of puppet out of a sock. You can use, like the milk carton one is an interesting one at the top of the page there. The container one is like, if you can get some sandwich boxes donated from a local, fast food place, that's a fun thing to do. The finger puppets there, the paper bag puppet. You can sew your own. You can even do it out of paper. If you go to the Jan Brett website, which if that's not some place that you visit regularly, I'd recommend that you do. There's always great ideas on that website. But look at the mitten and the activity that's there. It's not meant to be a puppet, but you can easily print those off and either tape around them or staple around them, punch holes around them, and let the child thread through yarn through the holes. If you print them off on cardstock, they last a little bit longer. But those are something that are easily adapted to hand puppets. Puppet stages, then. You can use anything. A box. You can do, just a regular box that you get some kind of supplies for your classroom in. You can use a door. Put up a tension curtain rod midway across the door, and children can be on one side performing and on the other side watching. They can have a lot of fun with that. Something as simple as putting a blanket over a chair can be turned into a stage. Hinged plywood is something, and you can purchase fantastic puppet stages, but you don't have to pay the amount that those cost. You can simply make your own out of plywood. you can turn a table on its side and do it that way. But these are some great ideas. There's a felt story apron, which is an apron made out of felt that you can do a felt story on rather than having a felt board. Interesting idea. Little popsicle puppets, homemade finger puppets, all kinds of things you can do. The shoebox puppet stage is pretty fun as well. Prop boxes, we talked about prop boxes a little bit, but just think about some different things that you could use for prop boxes. And the image here is like cardboard boxes, but I like to use the clear plastic totes because they hold up better than the cardboard boxes, but also I can see, you know, the items that are in it. You do want to have them clearly labeled on one side so that when you store them, you can pull them down pretty easily. But different kinds of containers can work for those. What are some of the different subjects that you can think of? I already mentioned a few, but what are some other things that you can think of that you could put together in a box that would be appropriate to pull out? Seasonal type activities, holiday type activities if your program participates in those, different stories. Clearly, what are some of the things that you have seen or that you would like to try for prop boxes? All right, coffee can theater. Coffee can theater is pretty interesting. You may have heard this term, you may not have. Basically, it's a collection of smaller items in a small container, so about the size of a coffee can. A lot of times we can get, like, if you have someone in your center that drinks coffee at home and uses the bigger containers, you can get one of those and just gather small things and put in that for a story. One of the ones that I remember children liking the most was if you give a mouse a cookie. So I had a mouse finger puppet, I had a pencil and a little pad of paper. I had Scotch tape, I had child-friendly scissors, I had a plastic toy cookie, I had a empty milk carton out of straw, and I just put those things in I didn't use the coffee can, I didn't have one, so I put it in a small clear tote, and then I would pull that out, and you know, I would use that during story time and either tell the story or I would read the story while somebody else kind of used the pieces to kind of demonstrate that and entertain the children while they were listening to the story. And then I would set that out in the workroom for children to use during free choice time. So maybe you've done something like this, maybe you haven't. Watch this YouTube video. This is fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. I believe this is the video where they make kind of finger puppets out of clothespins, and as you press on the clothespin, the mouth opens and then it closes, so you can make talking, well, you know, puppets where their mouths open and close out of paper using clothespins. It's pretty great, and when you watch the video, you'll see what I'm talking about. You can use your imagination and do any kind of puppets using those clothespin variations. Okay. All right, charades. This is really fun. This is a website that has charades for kids. There's one in particular that has emoticons that you print off, and they're on little, like, 1.5 or 2 inch squares. So they come, you print off the sheet, you cut them up, you can laminate them if you want them to last longer. This is a great send home activity too, but getting children to act out those different emotions and having other children kind of guess what they're trying to portray. It's a great way to kind of help develop some of that emotional awareness and understanding. So check that website out. Planning drama for older children. And you see in this image, you have children of different ages. The one in the kind of the middle there, maybe a little bit young for this type of thing. But as with all things, we have children that develop at their own paces, and so we may have a child who is ready to perform in a presentation of this type, and we may not. So, but if you're working with older children or with a children's theater group, kind of think about that when you're getting the actors for your performance. Think about the introduction, presentation of the story or situation, plan of action. What's the teacher's role? How will things be dramatized during the whole event? Closing and evaluation, plan and replay. And so if you're working with young ones and you want to do some kind of dramatic event like this, it's still appropriate to do this, to have children participate in the dramatic play of it. It's just not performing for an audience. So doing it in the classroom with their peers, if they choose to, that's appropriate. Doing it in front of a group of parents or an audience of another older classroom, that would not be appropriate. Okay, so just consider how you're using it in the age group, and what's really developmentally appropriate for that particular group of kids. Okay. Consider children as an audience. We know that young children have a difficult time sitting still for more than 15 or 20 minutes. Same is true taking them to the theater, right? Really think about where you're taking them if they're very young, and what's involved. How long will the seat time be? Will they have fidget toys to play with during that, if they need it? Some children can sit down at a movie theater and watch most of a movie all the way through, but a lot of children can't, young children, okay? So consider your audience, consider the age group. 1 year you may have a group of children who could go to a play that's only going to be a half an hour or so long. The next year you may have a group of children where that's just not gonna happen. So keep in mind the group of kids that you're working with and how they would act as an audience. That being said, you can absolutely invite theater performers into your classroom. Just explain to them, we're working with younger children. I can give you 20 minutes to put on a mini play as kind of an advertisement. They do that a lot of times as an advertisement for their performance, trying to get families interested in coming to the performance, things like that. We can really work with children on appreciating theater and being respectful. Okay. Think about grouping for drama, what groups of kids you're putting together if they're going to be participating in a dramatic event, whether it's in the classroom or performing for older children. But you want to have children that work together well as a group. So all of those social skills that you've been teaching all year can really come in handy for this type of activity. Think about children in theater, their age, their development, where they are developmentally and emotionally, socially, what they can handle. If you have children with behaviors, things like that. Children working as a community, clearly we want that to be taking place in the classroom regardless. And sometimes these types of events, dramatic play events, can contribute to that. Think about inclusion also. If you have children with any kind of special needs, we want to make sure that they have the same opportunities as all the other kids. And your book does a nice job of going through that, different types of special needs that a child may have. and how to work to include them. But always take that into consideration. All right, key terms. There's a few of them, and you've heard most of these terms. You might just not have heard them applied in the way that we've used them in this chapter. Make sure you do have a solid understanding of what each of these terms is. Reflection. I don't know if you guys are making full use of your textbook. At the end of each chapter, there are sets of reflection questions, things that you should think about based on whatever that chapter was about. For this chapter, it's on page 271, but look through those reflection questions and really spend some time reflecting and considering what's appropriate for the age group you're working with, what could be used in your classroom, things like that. Okay. All right. The PALs for this time. We have one that's mirror images. I'm just going to flip back to that and see if I can find it real quick here. So, okay, really, the way that you want to think about which one of these you choose is going to be based on which age group you work with. The mirror images works really, really well with younger children. It can work with older children too, but it works especially well with the younger ones. The fractured stories work better with older children and will require more children. So if you don't have access to a full classroom, then you need to consider the mirror image, which you can do with just a handful of children rather than a whole classroom. Okay, so read through those, think about those things, and then make your decision on which one you want to do. All right, what questions do you have? If you have any questions at all, please be sure that you ask those. If you need to meet with me for any reason to go over anything, just let me know. Okay, I'm in my office 7 times during the summer, but I can always make a plan to meet you there, or we can do a Zoom meeting. All right. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. And just if you have questions on any of the material we've covered, don't hesitate to ask. Have a great week.